working in very cramped conditions where they didn't know if they were going to be surprised at any time. But in other situations where you're away from that hard situation, then witches can develop with the use of incense, with the use of chanting and dancing, with your regular rituals and working magic. You can achieve that ecstasy without drugs. So there's no need for the drugs. And it is recognized that drugs are harmful. So very definitely the use of hard drugs, the use of alcohol, the use of nicotine, this very definitely goes against the Wiccan Rede, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're a hero to many people in the craft. Who are some of your heroes or people whose work in the craft has impressed you?
Well, obviously, from the start, Gerald Gardner. I mean, he was the one who brought about the renaissance of witchcraft, brought Wicca into the world in modern times. He was very much a hero of mine. I was lucky enough to know him, to correspond with him a lot, and finally to meet him briefly before he actually went off to Lebanon and then died on the way home. But he was a big hero of mine, and I found that his life and mine paralleled one another quite substantially. There are a lot of things that he did, which I found that I did. Things, he had a museum, I developed a museum based on his, and he had items in his, and I happened to come across the same items for my museum, things like that. So many things which paralleled. So he was very definitely a hero of mine, a role model, if you like, for me. And his high priestess, the Lady Olwen, who initiated me in Scotland back in 1964, 63, she was very definitely a hero of mine. She was a most accomplished high priestess. She had just about everything that a high priestess should have. She was a wonderful woman. Another and perhaps more modern hero, I would say, is Selina Fox. Mm-hmm. She has done so much work for the craft. She started Circle Wicca originally, it's Circle Sanctuary. As a matter of fact, I've just come back, yesterday I just got back from the Pagan Spirit Gathering, mm-hmm. which is held every year. I went to the very first one in 1980, and I've just gone to this one, which was their 25th anniversary. Mm-hmm. But she has done so much work, and she has done a lot of public work. She is a member of, I'm not sure of the exact title, but it's something like the International Congress of Religions. Mm-hmm. And she was just recently in Spain at a meeting there of all the representatives of all the various religions, mm-hmm. and she represents Wicca and does an incredible job. So she's very much someone who I am impressed by. A couple of others I can think of off the top of my head are Z Budapest and Starhawk, both of whom did a tremendous amount of work for the feminist Wiccans. They did a lot of work in the West Coast when times were pretty rough back in the 60s. It wasn't at all like it is today, and we did have some really hard times trying to get Wicca recognized and trying to straighten misconceptions, and Z Budapest and Starhawk did tremendous work there. So I would say that those five are probably the main ones whose work I admire: Gerald Gardner, Olwen, Selina Fox, Z Budapest, and Starhawk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you had mentioned Gerald Gardner. Who was your greatest influences in your practice today?
Well, again, Gerald Gardner and his high priestess Olwen. What Olwen taught me, Gerald taught me a lot about the craft and about religio magic generally. Olwen taught me everything specifically about Wicca and about Gardnerian Wicca and the practice of it. So they have had the most influence on me. I would still judge any form of Wicca by what I was taught by Olwen and what I learned from Gardner.
how do you feel Wicca is different from other faiths? And are there any faiths outside the standard pagan ones which share the same basic principles as Wicca?
There are some that share some of the same ideas. The parallels with most religions, actually. I mean, if you just look in the broadest sense at any religion, then it's a gathering together of people to worship deity in whatever form they see it, whether male, strictly male, or male and female, or whatever. So there are a lot of parallels there, but there are some pagan groups and pagan philosophies, if you like, which are very close to Wicca. One of them is voodoo. Voodoo is a polytheistic religion. It's a getting together, worshipping many gods and goddesses, and being on very close, intimate terms with them, much as we are in Wicca. In Wicca, we feel that we can speak directly to God and to Goddess, and so in voodoo they can, and in fact, as in Wicca, you have drawing down the moon, where the goddess descends and actually speaks to the people. And so in voodoo, the goddess or one of the goddesses or one of the gods can come and speak to the group in ritual there, where the gods and goddesses are known as the Loa, and they ride the worshippers, it said. They take possession of the worshippers, and so they speak through them. So there's very strong parallels between voodoo and Wicca. Also with knowledge of herbs and herbal magic and things like that with voodoo. But there are also with other pagan religions, a lot of the Amerindian, the Native American practices are very similar to Wicca. Let's see, the first part of your question was how does Wicca differ from other faiths?
Yes.
And I think it differs from the majority, from the more general, more standard faiths, in that it's very much a religion of the people with a belief in God and Goddess within ourselves. We don't have to have a priesthood as a plenipotentiary, as a go-between between us and the gods. In so many other religions, you've got this priesthood who have a certain power over the people. They're the ones who tell the people what they can do and what they cannot do, and threaten punishment from the gods if necessary, or threaten offer rewards or whatever. Also, in many of these standard religions, a worship service is a gathering together where the people are more or less an audience, watching the priests perform their rituals and just chiming in with the chorus, as it were. Whereas in witchcraft and in so many pagan religions, you're right there in the middle, taking part, you're actually participating. And this, I think, is a very important part of religion. So I guess that's the main differences and similarities between Wicca and other faiths.
Do you have any advice for the seekers of today?
Yes. The first one is don't be discouraged. There's so much out there, so much being offered today, and so much of that which is absolute nonsense, which is not Wicca, which is not even good paganism. So you need to not be discouraged and not to compromise. Wicca is first and foremost a religion. It's a belief in the god and the goddess, a belief in the deities, and a worship of them, asking them for what you need, thanking them for what you have, going through rituals. And a coven, if you join a group of witches known as a coven, then you want to be a part of that, and you don't want to compromise in the way this worship is performed. We're all individuals. We all have our own particular ideas, our own particular needs. Some of us, for instance, like a lot of pomp and ceremony, like a great deal of ritual and ceremony. Others of us like things to be very, very simple. So if you like a lot of ceremony, then you might like something like,